Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to clarify a point of confusion because I've heard quite a few YouTube channels discuss this over the years, even before I got into YouTube. People online talking about 5x5 type training being this or it being that, and I'm going to clarify the points because people don't seem to understand that there are two basic types of 5x5 systems. There's the original bodybuilder system that was made by bodybuilders, and then there is something that is called 5x5 but really isn't 5x5 that was later adapted for football players and other strength athletes by some coaches, and they are completely different. And Bodybuilder Type 5x5 I would not consider to be heavy training. So when people start calling it powerlifting or power work or something like that, you know automatically that one, this person has never actually read any of the 5x5 protocols, and you know that two, this person has probably never read anything about exercise science other than what they read out of Flex magazine or Muscle and Fitness magazine. That's the extent of their knowledge. Okay. Bodybuilder Type 5x5 originated back in the 50s. It was for bodybuilders. It was generally sets across, or at least 3 sets with the same weight with 2 ramping sets. But that is generally the idea, is that the weights are all very close to each other and they tend to be the same weight all the way through. You almost never go above 75 to 80% of your 1 rep max. That's your intensity range. It is considered hypertrophy work because you are doing 25 total reps with a weight that is between 70 and 80% of your max. And most people who've read some very basic books on exercise science and different training protocols and workloads will look at that and go, yeah, oh, that's hypertrophy work. It's a moderately high volume with a moderately heavy weight. It's 70 to 80% of your max for 25 total reps. That's hypertrophy work. It's focused on workload. Now later, what became popularized particularly by the strength and conditioning coach Bill Starr, and it really became more famous in the 70s when he wrote his book, Only the Strong Will Survive, which was a book he wrote for American football players on how to bulk up, get bigger and stronger with weights. And his 5x5s were more of the ramping type 5x5s, to where you spend 5 sets adding weight for 5 reps, but the first few are really warm-ups, because it would literally be something like, let's say you've decided you're going to do 200 pounds as your final work set, and that's going to be around 85, maybe a little higher, but around 85% of your 1 rep max. That is heavier than the bodybuilding type protocols, because you can't do 5 sets of 5 back to back with 85% or more of your 1 rep max. You'll fail. And those are focusing on metabolic fatigue with a moderate weight. This is getting into heavier weight, but you only do 1 heavy set. It might go something like your first set is 60% of your target weight, so 120 pounds. Well, if you can do 200 pounds on a lift, 120 for 5 is nothing. Next one at 70%, which would be 140. Next one at 80% be 160. And even then, if you can lift 200 pounds, it's not anywhere near failure to do 5 reps with 160, even if 200 is your max, and you get up to 90%, then you go for your 100%, which would be the full 200 pounds for 5, with pretty good breaks in between. Now, those last other sets, they still induce some hypertrophy, they induce some strength training, because you're starting to get up towards 70% of your max, which usually you start hitting 5 reps with about 70% of your max, you're in hitting the upper threshold fibers, but even the lower stuff is hypertrophying some intermediate fibers. So there is hypertrophy in there, but that peak set is what gives you everything. And the other stuff is just priming the nervous system to warm up for it. But the big difference is that bodybuilder style 5x5, you do more total work over the 5 sets. You're lifting more total tonnage. You're inducing more metabolic fatigue. Whereas a strength training type 5x5, you have less total workload, less metabolic fatigue, but you're using a heavier weight on the peak set. And it could be as much as 5 or 6% heavier, which is a big deal when you're dealing with percentages of your 1 rep max. And so that is the big difference between the two. And people get them confused, but I don't consider the strength training 5x5s to be 5x5 because it's a bunch of warm-up sets with only 2 sets that are really hard and only 1 set that's truly heavy and all out. Whereas in the bodybuilder style is truly 5 sets of 5 because you're doing work sets all the way across. And things like my novice program, things like Strong List 5x5, a lot of these programs are based around the bodybuilder style, which I don't think anyone could successfully argue isn't actually just hypertrophy work that helps you get a little stronger with a strength gain as a secondary characteristic, but with hypertrophy being the first, whereas in the strength training type, strength first with hypertrophy is a strong secondary goal. So it has to do with the slight difference in the emphasis. So hopefully that clarified the point, and that's really all I have to say on that today. And I will talk to you guys next time, but let me give you guys a bicep shot first.